Hi guys! So today we're going to learn how to make coffee cake. And the fun thing about this coffee cake is it actually makes two cakes. So you have one to eat for yourself and one to maybe take into work and share with your buddies, or if there's a new family that's moved on base, you can take it over to them. This is a really easy recipe and it really only is about 3 steps. So not complicated at all. Before we start, what I want you to do is go ahead and preheat your oven to 350. And then I need you to get out some sticks of butter, and you're going to use, some sticks of butter. 7 tablespoons, cut those and put those into a bowl and put them in your microwave for about 40 seconds just to go ahead and melt them, and put them in the refrigerator. We're going to use those later on in the recipe. So go ahead and do that now and we'll be right back. Okay, so let's go over what your ingredients are going to be for this, okay? First, you're going to need your flour. When we're baking, use a lot of flour. You're going to have regular white sugar. And you're also going to need brown sugar. You can use a light brown sugar, or the dark brown sugar. I like the light brown sugar for this one. You're going to use baking soda and baking powder, so make sure that you have both. You're also going to need salt. You're going to need some ground cinnamon. You're going to need some sour cream. Don't use the low fat. It's not going to taste as good. This one is about 16 ounces. That's a good size. And lastly, you're going to need some eggs, 3 eggs. Oh, and also butter. So go ahead and get those ingredients together, and let's also talk about the tools that you're going to need to make this. You're going to need 3 mixing bowls, okay? I have these 2 metal ones, and then I have this large one here, but just whatever mixing bowls that you have. You're going to need a whisk, a spatula. You're going to need all of your measuring cups and also measuring spoons. You're going to need your biscuit cutter. You're also going to need 2 cake pans. These are the 9-inch. You can also use the 8-inch. And then lastly, you're also going to need parchment paper. Okay, before you get started, what I want you to do is trace out the bottom of your pan on the parchment paper so you can make 2 circles. And you're going to put those in the bottom of your cake pans. That's going to prevent it from sticking. So go ahead and do that, get everything assembled, and we'll be right back. Okay, so remember I promised you there was just 3 steps to this recipe. We're going to do the first step, and that's actually going to be the topping for the coffee cake, and this is the really yummy part. Now this one you can actually get creative. You could actually put nuts in this. If you have some crushed nuts, then you can put those in there. So, be thinking about that. Or if you wanted to, you could put like some dried fruit in there as the topping along with this. That could be really good. All right, so let's go ahead and get our topping started. And the first thing that we're going to use is the brown sugar. Now with brown sugar, you want to make sure that you pack it in really hard. And let me show you how I do that. So I'm putting this into the container, and then I'm actually pressing it down with my hand, so it's packed in there really well. And what you're going to need with this is you're going to need 2/3 cups of brown sugar. So I packed it in really good, and I've dumped that in. Our next ingredient is going to be the white sugar, and you're going to use the same amount. Again, you're going to use 2/3 cups. So you have your 1/3 of a cup, fill it up twice. So there is 1 and 2. Okay, and the next ingredient you're going to need for this is the cinnamon. So here's my cinnamon, and you're going to need 2 tablespoons. So I'm going to take the top off altogether and kind of tap that in. If it's not exactly on the top perfectly, don't worry about it. Half the fun of cooking is kind of winging it. So you don't have to be too fussy. Okay, just have fun with it. So I have all the ingredients in for my topping. I have the brown sugar, I have the white sugar, I have the cinnamon. And then our final is going to be butter. Now I have unsalted butter, but you can use margarine for this. And you're going to need a total of 8 tablespoons. Each of these is 4 tablespoons. So I'm just going to cut 4 of these in here, and then we'll be right back. Okay, so we're going to finish up the topping. We've added all the ingredients. Now you're going to take your pastry cutter, and you're going to use that to mash down in your bowl. I don't know if you can see, and mix that butter in really good until it doesn't have any big clumps anymore. When you get done, it should kind of look like this. It kind of looks like wet sand. So if you have that kind of consistency and things are mixed in really good, then you know you're done. Again, feel free to throw something fun in there, like some raisins or some cran raisins or some nuts. And so we're going to be done with that, and then we're going to start on our next step. Again, only a 3-step one. This one's going to be really quick, so get ready for step number 2. Okay, so now we're ready for phase 2 of this particular recipe, and it calls for 3 cups of flour first. So I've got my big cup measure, and I'm going to measure out 3 cups of flour. There's 1, 2, 3. And then next I'm going to get out my baking powder. Again, make sure that you have the powder and not the soda. And you're going to use 1 tablespoon, the big one, of the baking powder. You see how I'm kind of like leveling it off using the container? That works out really well. Okay, now when you're going to use your baking soda, and with this you're going to use just 1 teaspoon, that's the smaller one, 1 teaspoon of baking soda, leveling it off and dumping it in there. And then last but not least, we're going to add some salt. And for this, you're going to need 1/4 of a teaspoon, just 1/4 of a teaspoon of salt. So I'm going to measure that out and throw that in. And then I'm going to use my whisk and kind of stir this up, okay? So I'm going to let you do that, and we're going to come back and do phase 3, which is our final phase. Hold on. Okay, so now we're on to our last step, step 3. And what you're going to have, if you have the 16 ounces of sour cream, just put the whole thing into your third mixing bowl. Just put that whole thing, and that's going to give you approximately 1 3/4 cups, okay? And next you're going to add 1 cup of brown sugar. Make sure that you pack it in really well, like I showed you before. That's the brown sugar. And then you need a cup of white sugar. So a cup of brown sugar and a cup of white sugar. And I'm using my half measuring cup because my other one is dirty from the sour cream. So there's 1 cup of that, and then we're going to use our spatula here. We're going to mix that in pretty good. And remember how we had melted the butter earlier and put it in the fridge to kind of cool down? Now it's time to add that. So I've got that in the bowl. I'm going to use my spatula to work that in there really good. And then our final ingredient is going to be the 3 eggs. Now these you're going to add 1 at a time. So what I'm going to have you do is add them 1 at a time. Stir them not too much with a spatula. If you overstir this batter, your cake is going to be really flat. So I'm going to have you do that, and then we'll be right back. Okay, so now we're going to finish step 3. You've mixed in the butter and the eggs 1 at a time, and now we're going to dump our dry ingredients in. Now again, with this, you're going to do it a little bit at a time. We don't want to overmix because we don't want our cakes to be flat. So mix it in a little bit of time until it's all mixed in, and then we'll be right back for our final step. Okay, so now we're ready to get it ready for the oven. Are you ready? Okay, so we have everything all mixed in this one big bowl. It's our batter, and then you have your topping. So what I need you to do is take your cake pan, and remember how you cut out the circle of parchment and put that in the bottom? That's going to keep the cake from sticking, and you're going to put half the batter in one of your cake pans, okay? And I want you to look at the batter. You see how it is kind of lumpy? That's what you want yours to look like. Again, it's not going to turn out well if you've mixed it too much. Don't use a hand mixer. Don't use anything like that. Just use the spatula, okay? So we're going to put on half of the batter into the bottom and kind of spread it with a spatula. And let you see how that looks. See? And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my topping, and again, you could have added something to this. You could have added like the nuts or the raisins or gotten really creative, and you're going to sprinkle that just on the top, okay? So half of your topping is going to go on the first one, and then go ahead and do your second one, and we'll be right back. Okay, so now we're ready to bake. You should have 2 pans that have your 2 cake batters that look like this. I want you to put them in your oven at 350. Make sure your temperature is right. And go ahead and put them on for 15 minutes. After 15 minutes, using your oven mitt or your pot holder like this, turn them halfway and then set the timer for another 15 minutes. Do that, and then we'll be right back. Okay, so my oven timer has gone off, and now I'm just going to check and make sure that my cake is actually finished baking. So I have my table knife. I'm going to stick it down in the center of the cake, and if it comes out clean, you see how this just has some crumbs attached? Then my cake is done. If you put yours in there, you pull it out, and it has wet batter, go ahead and put your cake back in the oven for about 5 minutes and keep rechecking it. If at 5 minutes it's still not done, put it in there for another 2 minutes. Keep doing it until the knife comes out clean. Then all you have to do is get a baking rack like this, put your cake on there for about 10 minutes, and then it's ready to eat. Okay guys, I had fun making this video too, so I hope you enjoyed it. And make sure and let me know how your coffee cakes turn out, and hopefully you'll enjoy it, and then your friends will enjoy it too. Okay, bye.